In this video, I want to look at a Bible-based film and see how biblically accurate it really is. We take for granted a lot of times that what is shown to us in films is always true. This may not be the case. This film that I want to look at today is the 1903 French film that's The Life of Christ. This film is mostly based on sections from three Gospels. It uses a lot of content from the beginnings of Matthew and Luke, and a couple incidents from the Gospel of John. First of all, I'd like to say how great I think this film is, considering how primitive technology was at the time that it was made. This part now, the Annunciation that's on the screen right now, is taken from Luke chapters 1:26 to 38. Now this next part, I think, shows Joseph and Mary attempting to find a place to stay once they arrive in Bethlehem. One of the verses that mention this is Luke 2, chapter 2, verse 7. Both Matthew and Luke make brief mentions of this in their Gospels. The director of this film stretches out the story quite a bit in these next few scenes, because what is summed up really quickly in the Gospels, he stretches out into at least three different scenes of his, this movie was originally a play, and now made into a film, or a play that was filmed. The next section of the film, The Wonderful Star, starts at about 2:28. This section is based on Luke chapter 2, verses 8 to 20, and it's very interesting because shepherds in the ancient world were the bottom of society, and yet the angels appear to them and announce Jesus' birth, just as they do to, or just as we would think they would do to the most important people in society. The Bible tells us in several different places throughout both Testaments that God is neither a respecter of persons or of our personal achievements. Considering Jesus' ministry during his life was mostly concerned with the unimportant people of the world, this is very fitting. Because of the fact that this film has no dialogue and some of the scenes are quite brief, they end very quickly, like some of them in less than a minute or something, or under 2 minutes. I'm going to keep my comments for each section very, very brief and try and sum everything up as quick as I can in order to let you enjoy the action that's going on screen. The section coming up at about 3 minutes and 30 seconds that shows the heavenly worship is really, really beautiful. The next part of the film that starts at around 3 minutes and 50 seconds and is called Following the Star goes back from Luke. Now we go back into chapter 2, the very beginning of chapter 2 of Matthew, and it's going to be the account of the visit of the Magi, or the Wise Men. Again, as in the scene before with the shepherds and the angels, I think this is actually really well filmed. The Nativity Scene shown here, starting from around 4 minutes and 40 seconds, shows the baby Jesus in a stable. But most textbooks, such as Erdman's or Strong's textbook on the ancient Israel, describe Jesus as most likely being born in a cave underneath the relative's family home. It's sort of a place where the animals were kept, kind of the ancient version of a garage. What the cave was called was a cataluma. The part with the star appearing over the baby's manger is indeed Bible-based, because it says in Luke or Matthew 2:9, that after the wise men had heard the king, they went on their way, and the star they had seen in the east went ahead of them until it stopped over the place where the child was. When they saw the star, they were overjoyed. On coming to the house, they saw the child with his mother Mary, and they bowed down and worshipped him. Also note that in this section of Matthew's Gospel, in many translations, it lists or describes Jesus, the baby Jesus, as being born in a house. But again, this would be fit with what we described, because the Cataluma that he was probably born in was underneath a family home of likely one of Joseph's close relatives. For this would be Jewish custom of the ancient world, and customs of family and hospitality. At about 5 minutes and 30 seconds in the film, the wise men, the procession of wise men, are shown arriving. I think this section also shows, in the way it's presented and filmed, it shows the beauty of the early 1900s or turn of the century pageantry and stagecraft, and how they present the scene. Coming up at about 6 minutes and 39 seconds, they'll now show another scene from Matthew. That's the massacre of the innocents, and this is based on Matthew chapter 2, verses 13 to 18. Again, what the director has done in these upcoming scenes is he's taken from maybe 2 or 3 small short paragraphs in the Bible, specifically in Matthew, in this chapter of Matthew. He's stretched out into like 3 or 4 scenes for dramatic effect. The incident that's shown in or depicted in about 9 minutes and 40 seconds during the Mary and Joseph's flight to Egypt is not in the Bible, but we could see why the director inserted it for dramatic effect. Commonly, when writers take real events and write them or transform them into plays and scripts, a lot of content is added to provide more suspense and drama, and I think that's what part of what he's doing here. Now, note that for whatever reason, the screenwriter and probably the playwright too, who wrote this original play, base a lot more. They spend a lot more time telling the story of Jesus' birth and childhood. They use up to almost a third of the film is actually shows Jesus' birth and childhood, which is a lot more than what's shown in the Gospels. The Gospels, again, as I said before, all these events are summed up in a few paragraphs, and basically, even in the longest one, Luke talks about it the most, and it's still within a couple pages. So a much lesser percentage of the Gospel, all these same events are explained much, much quicker. The section coming up at 11:50 called "The Holy Family at Nazareth." None of this is in the Bible, but it does maybe capture some of the humanity of Jesus and shows maybe what some of his childhood could have been like. The only actual Bible account of any events that happen in Jesus' childhood is only in Luke 2:41 to 51, and it's Jesus, the boy Jesus in the temple, which the film will show in this next sequence, which is shown at about approximately 13 minutes and 43 seconds into the film. Interestingly, history textbooks describe the town of Nazareth in Jesus' time as the kind of a very poor town, and not the kind of place where anyone important would come from. The Bible seems to deliberately omit most or all of the details of Jesus' childhood, except for the boy Jesus at the temple, and probably we can assume that he would have had as much of a normal childhood as possible, whatever normal means in that sense. The only other thing I remember from my Bible college textbooks was that lots of them suggested that Joseph was a much older man when he married Mary, and there may have been even as much as 20 years of an age difference. So it's suggested that Joseph died early, and Jesus would have probably had to take over the family business while probably in his mid or late teens. But this again is speculation. It's not suggested, or it's not explained to us in the Bible.